This is something I wanted to bring up in another video the other day, but I didn't have an opportunity or didn't think about it. So let's think about problems in relationships in general. Let's consider them from two perspectives. From a perspective of a relationship, a long-term, lasting relationship or even marriage, and a short-term, casual relationship. And look at how you could possibly deal with any kind of problems, not just jealousy, how to approach things in relationships depending on whether they are long-term or short-term. You know, when honeymoon phase has long passed and you find yourself navigating the more monotonous or challenging aspects of life, you know, like bills, jobs, kids, it's super easy to feel disconnected. This is something that I've mentioned in a previous video. It can be jarring when you look across the dinner table and feel like you're living with a roommate rather than the love of your life. It's very discomforting. Couple that with the lack of intimacy and communication, this can make this gulf feel even more pronounced. It's not nice. So what can you do about it? Beyond the cliched communicate more or keep the spark alive. Well, here's some real talk for actual problems. First off, let's tackle communication, because this is one of the first advices that somebody would give you. Yep. You've heard it a million times. Just talk to each other more, communicate, be open. But let's be honest, if it were that simple, you wouldn't be in this mess to begin with, right? If communication was this simple. What you may not have tried is changing the way that you actually talk to each other. And this is a completely different approach. If every conversation turns into a game of blaming or defensive maneuvers, switch it up. Try I statements for a change. Instead of saying something like, you never listen to me, try saying something like, I feel unheard when we discuss all of these problems. I feel like I'm not being heard. It's a small alteration, but it makes a conversation less accusatory and opens the door for more emphatic dialogue. Now, if talking face-to-face makes things heated or complicated, switch the medium. It's simple as that. I did it in my relationship. Writing a heartfelt letter where you can gather your thoughts without interruption can sometimes break down the walls more effectively than verbal communication. Plus, it gives your partner time to actually digest your thoughts, what you've said, instead of reacting on a spot and trying to prepare the next response. As for the lack of sex and intimacy, look, I understand that this is a touchy subject. It's a difficult one. Maybe the sparks aren't flying in a bedroom like they used to, or even worse, they've stopped altogether. Instead of setting yourself up for failure by planning an extravagant night of romance that feels forced, how about starting small? Intimacy isn't just about sex. It's also about connection. Something as simple as holding hands during a movie can literally rekindle that. Even a hug that lasts just that tad longer than usual can start to bridge that emotional gap. Also, break the routine. It's like, instead of trying to force yourself to sleep, just fall into it. If your lack of intimacy stems from falling into some daily grind, inject some spontaneity into your life. It doesn't have to be second honeymoon. Even a day trip to a nearby town can provide a change of scenery and stimulate new conversations and experiences. And this is what you need. If you're brave enough, confront the elephant in the room. Ask your partner outright. Why do they think the intimacy has waned? You'll have to brace yourself for the answers you may not want to actually hear, but it's better than letting the resentment silently build up, because this is a killer of any relationship. You might discover it's an issue that neither of you had the courage to bring up, but an issue that can be easily resolved when it's out there in the open. Then there's the practical side of things, especially for those with kids or any demanding jobs. If time and energy are factors, schedule intimacy. It may sound completely unromantic, but penciling in time for each other ensures that the chaos of life won't push your relationship to the side. It's something like you used to do when you started dating. This isn't just about sex, it's also about setting aside moments for emotional connection. Give yourself a break. Cut yourself a little bit of slack in this regard. Every relationship has highs and lows. It's not like your relationship is the doomed one, destined for the wastelands of the heart. I doubt it. It's not that special. If you're in low, it's not a sign that you are doomed to fail. It means that you're normal. The most important thing is not to let the low moments define you. Acknowledge them, tackle them head on, and use them as a stepping stone to build a stronger and a more resilient relationship. If you can reflect back on your mistakes, the stuff that you've both done, then you can build on that. Toss out the outdated rulebook. Get creative and specific about reconnecting. Whether it's changing the way you communicate, finding new small ways to reintroduce intimacy, or scheduling us time in the midst of chaos, remember that the little things often lead to big changes. And if you're both committed to making it work, then you're already halfway there. You really only lose once you stop trying, so don't stop trying. Now, for young people in less committed relationships, the dynamics are completely different. Here, the freedom to leave at first sign of trouble is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, you are not tied down and you have the luxury of easily moving on. This freedom can create an environment where relationships aren't given a fair chance to grow and overcome challenges. And this is where it's a curse. So, if you find yourself in a relationship that's going through a rough patch, like dealing with jealousy, yet you're not quite ready to throw in the towel, here's some advice that's a bit different from the stuff that you probably usually hear. Maybe not. First, let's talk about timing. You might think, why stick around if things aren't perfect? I can just pick up and go. But remember, no relationship is smooth sailing all the time. Every relationship is like that. Being quick to leave could mean you're bypassing a chance to learn valuable lessons about love, compromise, and emotional intelligence, even if you don't stick forever. If every time you hit a bump, you jump out of the car, you'll never get very far. However, this isn't a plea to stay in a relationship. That's in a relationship that is fundamentally flawed or unhealthy. No, it's just acknowledging that all relationships, even the casual ones, have their ups and downs. They are an opportunity to learn. Consider the why before you focus on what. In other words, before you tackle the problem itself, try to understand what is behind it. Is your irritation with each other just the symptom of stressful lives or some deeper issues? Perhaps you're annoyed because you're both navigating exams and high stress rather than being fundamentally incompatible. The point is that this is a casual relationship, so you have to approach it differently. So understanding the why of anything can offer insight into whether your relationship deserves the energy to fix the what. Now, let's say you've gone through some troubles, but you decide it's worth sticking around. Awesome. I couldn't be happier for you. But don't just fall back into the same old routine, hoping things will magically get better. Be proactive. Sit down and have a candid conversation about your concerns and hopes for your relationship. And yes, it may get uncomfortable, but those awkward conversations are often the ones that lead to the most growth. And look, here's a piece of advice that you may not hear that often. Inject some fun into your relationship. If you're feeling insecure, this is the thing that you have to do. Sometimes when things go south, we get so caught up in fixing them up that we forget why we got into this relationship in the first place. So just enjoy each other's company. You never know what the future brings. You have to work on it, but if you just want to enjoy each other's company, that's fine. If you had a string of serious, heavy conversations, it may actually be the perfect time to lighten the mood. Do something spontaneous like a random day trip or an impromptu movie night, just to remind yourself why you clicked in the first place. Look, at the end of the day, if you're young and unattached, you have a world of options at your fingertips. This is something that you always have to keep in mind. But that doesn't mean that you should just forgo opportunity to build something meaningful with the person that you have right now, just because it's becoming challenging. Consider each relationship as a chapter in your life. Some are longer, some are shorter, but each contributes to your story. And sometimes the chapters are with a bit of conflict, and they turn out to be some of the most rewarding chapters of your life.